I want to get into right brain thinking with you, how that thinking can help you become better in design and all. So here goes. I'll just launch my presentation and share my screen with you now. Okay. So here's my new share. Yes. So basically, I'll just scroll through a few things, like, because Bikram has already given an introduction. So I'll just take you fast through this part. Basically, like I've been knowledge partner with TCS Ion for now 3 years. And besides being a principal of CX, which is customer experience with Circulant's US academic mentor at SXILL, and many involvements world over, like I'm an India World Skills expert, and I lead the Indian delegation to ACE Korea every year. And I'm a judge at Wharton QS, city coordinator for ASIFA, which is the animation body, and Vidyadan Guru and mentor with Kora and Shiksha. Sure, thanks Girishji. I'll take care that I can give some new inputs to you also. So, of course, I'm Dean at Chitkara School. This is a picture of SXILL as it looks, various aspects of SXILL. Then these are some pictures from the Indian delegation that I take to Korea every year. On the top is an image at Konkuk University giving a seminar to the students, Korean students, and below is the delegation to ACE Korea. I'm in the center in the front if you can locate me. And this is TCS Ion courses that that are available with TCS Ion in my voice and my content. These are a couple of books, and then of course some quotations that I love writing. In fact, today's quotation on just after this seminar, I'll be publishing on Instagram. If anybody is following me there, you'll be able to see. It is about design today. So coming here, design thinking. Walt Disney is one of the great design thinkers that I admire, and why I'll explain. But before that, I'll talk about a few things. I'll also put on another presentation, because I've got two presentations. One is about left brain, right brain thinking. So I'll first showcase you what usually people believe to be thinking, and then move on to what I think about design thinking, right? So I'll make a little change in the presentation sequence and take this part earlier. So the common methodologies, right? So coming to those common methodologies. Yes, you're able to see the screen?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Can you see my screen, or should I share again?
Yes, we can see the screen.
Okay, great. So this is the most common methodology that exists. It is very simple. It evolved very early as, like, you have to have an analytical phase where you analyze things, then you have a creative phase when you create things, and then execution phase, which is, this has now evolved into many more detailed methodologies, but largely you understand design methodology starting here. Like analytic phase, you study the user and the standards, regulations, and you do surveys and observe. After that, you sit on the creative phase, you sketch ideas, draw concepts, build models, and then rank and select ideas also. And then execution phase, you prototype things, you detail specify, manufacture, test, and then you market. So this is very easily understood. And then I move to the one which is something that maybe 90% of you, if you are in the field of design, use this one. Any of you are using this one? Like typically you're taught that you have to empathize, you have to define, you have to ideate, and then you create a prototype, and then you test the prototype. This is the most standard definition that is going around in the world. Unfortunately, I don't believe in it in totality. I have huge conflict with this one. I'll discuss that conflict later, but there are, I just wanted to bring you to the point that there is nothing called a methodology, a fixed path in creativity, right? Methodologies are only useful as an initial training method. It's something like sports. You tell a person how to play a good cricketing shot, but then what he plays on the field, you do not keep on checking him. You only say, fine, if you scored, that shot is right. That's it. So that is the approach I would love that every designer takes. Do not use methodologies as a holy grail. Understand, like it's not like a prayer that you have to offer every day to start your day. So moving on to another popular methodology. Okay, this is a little research I did to understand my own methodologies as well as like map against the one that we just discussed. Like how much creativity, how much psychology, how much visualization, how much data analysis. On the left are the skills that you must have, are required at each stage of the methodology we just discussed. So which means for empathy, you need psychology, data analysis, and experience. Whereas in defining things, you need creativity and data analysis. But when you go to ideation, now you need visualization and materials, the knowledge of materials, and of course, some creativity. Not very high, some. When prototyping, now the creativity level had dropped earlier. Now visualization also drops a little. Now you need knowledge of materials, engineering, and experience if you are creating product. And similarly, some engineering in the case you are creating apps, then you have to have an idea on how apps work, and so on. So moving to the next slide, this is another very popular methodology across the world. So it is 5D methodology. So you define, you discover, you design, you develop, and you deploy. Now you see how suddenly it is different from the previous one. In the previous one, you were supposed to empathize, where in the second one, you're moving directly to the stage 2 in the previous version. Because they believe that the discovery will happen now in the second step, and the user has to be studied here. So everybody differs in the way they approach. So design is where you prototype. So whereas in the previous one, you are testing out there, here you have more deep, you have to develop and deploy things. Right? So you see, they are different. And of course, there is a methodology that I follow. You can call it design methodology. It is DESIGN. So I believe that initially you have to do a lot of divergent thinking. So which means you study everything about that subject as far as possible. And then keep on putting ideas to paper, however silly they may be. So that is divergent thinking. You do not have to bring logic at this stage. Thereafter, you basically go for emergence. I'll repeat it a little once more because one of my great friends, Eugenie, is here. Hi, Eugenie, you are in? You can hear me? Eugenie, you can hear me?
Yes. Hello,
Great.
Mr. Vineet. Hello.
Hi. Thanks. So happy to see you here. I just already started, but I'll repeat the last couple of parts.
Okay. Okay, thank you so much.
Right. So I'll just go 1-2 slides back here. So this is the standard methodology most of the people use. Eugenie is already knowing about this, so I don't have to repeat a lot. This is the 5D process as Eugenie had shared with me. And this is a process I created, which is a design process, DESIGN. So we go here like a divergent thinking, think aloud, think like all over the place, put all the ideas on paper. So mind mapping becomes the most important tool, brainstorming, mind mapping, mood boards to start with. And then things will emerge. So more than definition, I believe it has to be emergence. This should emerge from your previous thought process automatically. Whereas you are required now from this emergence, you have to synthesize this emergence together. I'll give an example. So if you have sowed, say, 10 seeds of tomatoes, or I don't know, whatever, means just imagine 10 seeds you have sown. Now only 4 plants come out. Now these 4 plants were what were important to the solution. That's why they have emerged. It is your job to synthesize the 4 together to make one strong plant. So you synthesize these ideas together, bring them together so that they join into a solution. Now the problem is not everything will join. How much ever we want, things don't like they're not naturally joining together. So after this, I've put a deliberate process of iteration that since everything is not joining together, now you go to iteration, but it is like a spiral. So you are on level 2 of thinking. So you have done this, synthesized, now iterate, go back. So now you are again at divergence, but now thinking around these 4 ideas which had emerged. So your divergent thinking is on a second level. From again, something will emerge, something will be synthesized, go back, iterate, and then the genus. So like a woman giving birth to a child, after this continuous operation, a birth will take place, which is genesis, the birth. And this birth, this child has to be nurtured. Now, sometimes you may feel, how I don't get it, what you were talking about. So I'll tell you one example. So suppose a human being said, I must be able to move, right? So he had many ideas. Somebody sat on a raft and started moving on water. Somebody maybe put a board and put some balls under it and started moving. Somebody may have invented wheels and started moving. Somebody wanted to put wings and start moving. Anyway, so all this, they went through divergence, emergence, synthesis, and iteration. So after the first iteration, maybe they came out with a single wheel bicycle. After the second iteration, it became a 2-wheel bicycle. After the third iteration, they added some motor, it becomes a 2-wheeler, or they added a horse, it becomes a horse cart. After the fourth iteration, it becomes a car. After the fifth iteration, it becomes something as bus, train, aeroplane, spaceship. So you get the idea that there is no singular design process. It is a spiral that continuously keeps on going upwards, and products keep on emerging at every iteration. So now you get the idea how this design thinking process works. So if you have any questions at this stage, otherwise I'll go to another of my favorite areas, because how I came across to this. So I want to share with you some thinkers in the field. Yeah, anybody wants to ask something? Or I move to the thinkers? Okay. Anybody, whenever you want, you can message me. So way back in 1980s, I came across a book called The Act of Creation. It was written by a person called Arthur Koestler. I think he's from Hungary, if I'm right. So Arthur Koestler used to write a lot. He started, I think, with engineering. The family was pretty okay, so they started with engineering. But very soon there were a depression, and they lost everything and he was not able to continue his studies due to financial reasons. So he started writing, becoming a journalist. In fact, he's a very tricky kind of person in the sense that he also even being a Jewish, he went for the Communist Party of Germany, but later on became a British citizen. Anyway, so his thought process was quite evolved, and he much later in 1964 he wrote a book called The Act of Creation. It was a wonderful book. So this image is from that book. That's why I wanted to give you an introduction. So he says, when you are on a path to learn or to discover, so what happens is slowly your curve of knowledge is rising. Finally, it plateaus out because there's nothing further you're not able to make any headway. So there has to be a phase of catharsis where you feel very down and frustrated. That is the creative process. In fact, if somebody says, no, I never feel frustrated when I'm doing something new, then they're actually not trying hard. So in this stage, he said, if there is a comic relief, there can be an explosion of creativity. So this was his idea. I'll delve into this idea further in the next few slides, where you'll be able to understand this much better. So actually what he meant was that you are moving around on a plane. You see, like whatever these like lines are indicating on, say, the white plane. So you're moving on the white plane and you are hitting this block in front of you, but you're not able to climb this block. So what is this block? I'll explain in my own terms. What happens is when one set of knowledge meets another set of knowledge, then you are able to break through. So which means, for example, humans were trying to move and there was somebody else who makes a motor. So then they understood that if I put the motor and put some gears, the wheels can move by themselves, right? Then somewhere else in France, somebody was trying to go up in the air with balloons, whereas in another place somebody was trying to fly with wings. So then they kind of merged two knowledges together, because for balloons the problem was steering. So steering system was developed by people who were doing wings, but balloon allowed people to go up in the air and learn a lot of new things that they brought down, the knowledge that they brought down from here. So I'm talking about an actual incident. Like in France, they were doing this. So they were having an annual race of balloons and they had to go around the Eiffel Tower and complete a circle. So steering was also being checked. So anyway, when one knowledge meets another knowledge, a new thing is born. So which means when you're taking rockets in the space and you have these aeroplanes who are taking people from one place to another place, now this year have met together to try and take people to outer space. So you are trying to merge the aeroplane and the rocket together so that the rocket can also fly back safely instead of crashing back, right? So this is how every time. So what do we gain from this? The great thing that we gain is that if a person who wants to become a designer is a master of many different spheres, he has knowledge in many spheres, they're able to combine both not just both, but many things together. So just imagine this white plane goes directly, horizontally, and there are many vertical planes that they can meet. So now you understand that when there are many vertical planes to meet, there are many chances that you'll meet an answer, a solution. So when, see, initially when you had to book taxis online, so what did you do? There was a database of taxis. So technically you can just call them on directories. You can call a driver and ask him to come. Slowly, here Google was working on GPS. So GPS tracking had come in. So what Ola did, they merged both of them together. On one side, the GPS, And on the other side, it was a database of taxi drivers. So if he was able to track each taxi's location, it is so easy to get to you. So you understand, whenever new knowledge will come, it is your duty to understand how it is going to impact your product. So product design is not always that an unknown person is going to get a question and which they are going to solve. It is usually people who are already in the thick of things, who are already have discovered a lot, keep getting just the information on what happens in another field. So anything that happens in another field, you can adopt to your own. So that is how breakthroughs can happen. So if you want to say that, can you give me a formula to innovate or to have breakthroughs? This is the formula. Have multiple inferences that you can hit. That inference can be poetry, it could be chess. You can take inferences from anything, right? So you can learn from anything. We'll come to the right brain, left brain thing. There we'll discover a lot more. So anyway, so now he has combined the initial and the second diagram into one diagram. So this is how a breakthrough will hit you, right? I think somebody has a question. Oh, great. Right. So where is our share? Just a second. Where is my share? Just a second. Okay. So moving from here, this is one again small example. So you have a very generic space. So there's the object. So object is used by a person and on a medium. So next is if you input an object, which is house. So on land, he starts living in it. On water, it's a boat, he's riding it. So now if you blend both ideas, so now he can live on a houseboat. So living and riding comes together. So that is how things keep on merging naturally. Even if you follow Charles Darwin, this is the same thing, that things will keep on merging together as new things keep on coming. So iPod came because they were already, the songs had moved from tape to hard disk or CD or DVD. So iPod, the timing was right because they picked that now people are able to carry data. So why not listen to that while carrying it? So they created iPod.